Hello everybody and welcome to the championship finale of the Radical Race Series here for 2022 Season 1. We are at the Nürburgring Nordschleife here today for the 12th round out of 12 in this first season of 2022. And it's good to be here once again for the championship finale that still has two potential champions. Simon Edwards and Graham Brown will be fighting this one out. 37 points between us, so in theory Graham Brown needs a win and he needs Simon Edwards to do very, very badly for him to turn the tide his way in this championship fight. So it's all but sealed for Edwards. He just needs to get around today and get those points in order so that he can become a champion for the second time in 2 seasons in this championship. And of course there's the intrigue with how this race is going to be won. Who is going to win it? Are we going to see another different winner in our championship season? Taking you through the action here once again, it's me, Ewan O'Leary, alongside Steve Proudly once again. And yeah, Steve, we're at the legendary Nürburgring Nordschleife, which is so difficult for everybody. And of course, there's a championship on the line as well here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Ewan. It's an exciting circuit. Is Nordschleife. It's certainly a difficult one to learn, but it does put a smile on your face once you put those sectors together. And we talk about it week after week how difficult it is in qualifying to link the sectors up at a normal size, shall we say, track. Well, Nordschleife is anything but normal. It is a challenge in a lifetime. I think it's difficult. It's twisty. It's fast. We're seeing some qualifying. The guys have been on track for 2 hours qualifying, with it being such a big lap time and so easy to get off tracks. They've needed that time really to get some clean laps in, to get some times on the board, but the times are spread far and wide. But it's going to be a good one tonight.
Certainly is. As you mentioned there, the guys have been or will have been out there qualifying for 2 hours today. We've done away with the practice session that normally precedes qualifying when we're just coming to air in these evenings, but we've done away with that now, and we have got a 2-hour qualifying session instead here in these races. Well, for this particular one, and if that doesn't stress how difficult this circuit is, then I really don't know what will. 2 hours for these guys to perfect their laps, and we've still seen 3 drivers not able to set a lap time. For example, David Rollerson, currently on his 4th attempt at getting a clean lap in here, still hasn't been able to get one on the board right now with only just under 8 minutes to go in this session.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a challenge, and to be honest, I mean, as much as it's good to be up at the front of that grid and at sharp end around any circuit, to be honest, Nordschleife, I wouldn't be too worried if I wasn't, if that makes any sense. To be fair, if I didn't set a time and I was just at the back of the grid for this one, because there is going to be some incidents. There's going to be a few off tracks, there's going to be some spills, there's going to be some speed differentials at the sectors where some people have learnt them better than others and just carrying that bit more speed. We talk about the setups on the Radicals week after week. These guys and girls really do vary their setups. We see some of them running the lower downforce, some running high downforce, and others with that low setup in between. But I think tonight it's for me, you probably want to go with that high downforce for most of the twisty stuff. Obviously, it's just a couple of long straights where you will suffer, but the nature of the circuit, it's tight, it's narrow, it's twisty. It's going to be. I don't think qualifying is important, I will say that, but yeah, for me, I wouldn't be too worried if I wasn't at that point here tonight.
Well, that is true. It's going to be difficult to overtake around here. There's no question about that. It's very narrow. As you can see, more around the back of the circuit, really, you can see this really coming into effect. And of course, because we have a very long session, it's an open qualifying session, meaning that everybody is out here all together. at the moment, and there's no. You're not on the track on your own like we see normally in these sessions. James Child a couple of weeks ago at Oulton Park was a surprise at pole position right at the end. He's on a lap time right now, so maybe he can produce a surprise for us here today, but just under 6 minutes to go for him. He may well be on his final lap time here. He needs to find 4.5 seconds if he wants to surprise us all here for the second time in 3 weeks. Seems unlikely, but it was 2 weeks ago at Oulton Park, so you never know.
Yeah, I mean, 4.5 seconds, you say it sounds like a lot, and it is, again, on a sort of a 2 mile, 2.5 mile circuit, it's a lifetime, but round here, where the lap times are, so big, sort of 6 minutes 13 and upwards, 4.5 seconds, it's only fractions per sector, so it's not impossible, but it is difficult. But James Child sat there in 5th place at the moment. He won't be too disappointed with that. It's 3rd row on the grid, so he'll be able to see the front runners, and as long if you can get away with the front guys around here, I think where initially everybody won't be pushing to 10 tenths at the start, it'll be maybe a little bit easier to follow and keep in touch. That it'll just be eyes on Simon Edwards at the start, because he has been the man of the series, and he's back tonight, and it'll be interesting to see if he can first of all get onto that front row as in pole position. He's on the front row in P2 at the moment, see if he can get on pole position. But if he doesn't, if he's on the front row, it'll be interesting to see if he can actually get away and make a break from it. We have seen him win by a few seconds each at the races as well.
Absolutely. To the Tiergarten now for James Child. It's a very, very bumpy and fast section of corners, but in these high downforce radicals, you really don't need to brake until you get to that final left-hander there, where the wall, the Onco barrier, just sticks out ever so slightly through this tricky final little section over towards the line. Now it is a big improvement for James Child. It's a good half a second there to bring himself to just under 4 seconds behind John McCutchinson, and of course in front of Charlie Booker, who will be in 5th place here in today's race, or worse, that is. The guys behind could still improve. John McCutchinson, the only man in the top, one of only 2 in the top 10, actually on a lap time right now. Ray Peasley is the other one, but McCutchinson is out here at the moment. I believe his last appearance was a very long time ago, possibly all the way back in, was it Watkins Glen or something? It was a very long time ago, or Suzuka maybe? That's a very long time ago either way, but in the 4 races he's done so far, he's got 4 victories. Could very well get himself right up towards the top 10 in this championship. He's 13th at the moment, but obviously for a previous champion like him, that's not much to him really, but either way he'll be looking to prove himself, and maybe if he's a little bit more, or attends a few more races next season, then he will be a championship contender once again.
Yeah, I mean, I just I love the fact that they bring in the Nordschleife for the final round here. I think it's a great shout. I mean, it's a difficult one to challenge. It really does challenge the drivers, and if if the championship were down to a couple of points and it was a real title decider, then it'd be it's not an easy circuit to push hard at. You've got to be cautious. It's not the usual circuit where there's 10 or 12 corners to learn. There is, I can't remember how many corners there is now, but there is an official list. I'm hoping you've learnt all the corner names, to be fair, Ewan, for tonight, but because I know I haven't.
Well, it's one of those things that you kind of build up after years of watching races here at the Nürburgring, to be fair. I think the first Nürburgring 24-hour race, we're going into endurance territory here, but probably 6 years ago now, 5.5 years ago, when in the springtime. Well, yeah, that is nearly 6, isn't it? So, goodness me. There we are. It's a long time, and you just kind of pick them up over the days, really. Particularly the most famous ones, obviously everybody knows. Of course, but yeah, it's quite an experience, and it will be for somebody. I've got to say though, looking in some of the chats we've seen throughout the series over the last few weeks, because obviously everybody has that eye towards the final round of the season all the time. They're kind of aiming towards that in terms of where they are. Saw a few people complaining at the frequency with which the Nordschleife turns up in these radical series, because obviously we're mirroring the iRacing, what would you call it? The iRacing official series, if you call it that. following their schedule, seems to have the Nürburgring Nordschleife with alarming frequency, and I know that some people aren't a fan of that, so it won't suit everybody here. I know that a few people are going to be happy, we're going to be happy about it in the commentary box, of course, but there's going to be a few people absolutely dreading today. And Simon Edwards trying to defend a championship lead. Luckily it's a healthy one, but it's not really a track that's very nice to defend a championship lead on.
No, I mean, there's an element of jeopardy around here, isn't there, that we keep touching on. You know, it is a difficult circuit to be consistent at because there's just so many corners, there's so many ifs, buts, whats, where, whens, and it's a difficult circuit to overtake. And the worst thing I find about driving around Nordschleife, it's I've done it plenty of times, so I've remembered the corners, I recognise what sector I'm in at, and I know the track pretty well. It's the curbs. There are some curbs that you can take and some that will just absolutely destroy your line. They will throw the car in the air, and you know, you've just got to avoid those curbs, especially in these radicals, you know, because they're only a lightweight car and they will bounce hard over those curbs. So yeah, a lot of memory skills tonight, knowing the corners and knowing which curbs you can take and how much of them you can take as well. There's a couple of the corners where you can run pretty wide, you can be very greedy with the track limits, as it were, on the exits especially, and then there are some that you've got to be pinpoint accurate, stay on the black stuff and stay away from the curbs.
It's also a case of learning where the track goes, which is a bit of a mission on occasion, as Phil Glover, realising that he can't make his way all the way around, will be pulling into onto the grass there to get back to the pit lane. Paul Crabb might well be doing the same at the end of this. Paul Clark and previously also didn't make it out there on outlaps at the moment. It looks like that could well be everybody out there at the moment who has completed a lap. Simon Edwards was out there, but is no longer. Oh, I think he might be still. Actually, Cruz was, but he is not out there on a lap any further either. And as things stand, the 2 hours now complete. And we'll have a look at the starting grid, of course, and the qualifying times and so on in a few moments' time. But yeah, unfortunately, or it's unfortunate to report that Graham Brown, the only other man who can take this championship away from Simon Edwards at this point, is not here for today's race. By the looks of things, it will be missing this one, and that 37 points lead for Simon Edwards will be enough. To be fair to him, he only needs to finish 28th, and since there's only 21 cars on the grid here today, he should be fine, absolutely fine anyway, and could have afforded not to turn up for the fourth week in a row, quite remarkably. But yeah, here he is anyway, and we'll be trying to get that race win away from John McCutcheon. It's going to be very difficult for him though, because 2.5 seconds is not insignificant at all, and McCutcheon looked comfortably quicker than Edwards over those 2 hours there.
Yeah, he certainly did, and it's looking like he has done enough to get that pole position, but we're just waiting for confirmation once the session clicks over, and we'll get those qualifying results up for you as soon as we can. But yeah, John McCutcheon and Simon Edwards will not be disappointed with the front row, though. He'll be quite happy at that. And Paul Crabb making another good qualifying session, and we say it week in, week out. It will be nice to see Paul have a good race tonight and not get caught up in any entanglements and off tracks, and yeah, see if you can convert a third place qualifying into a third place or better finish. It'd be good to see for Paul, because he certainly deserves it in my eyes. He's always been there and he's always put good laps in. He just seems to get tangled up in incidents here and there when it comes to the race.
Of course, won the first two championships of this UK&I Radical Race Series back at the end of 2020 and the start of 2021. Two-time champion. Simon Edwards is going to be joining him by becoming the second two-time champion. Also to do that consecutively as well, taking both of those by the looks of things. So it is previous champions in 1, 2 and 3 at the moment. John McCutcheon, Simon Edwards and Paul Crabb. Edwards is very close towards the end of a lap here. This is basically who we're waiting for at this stage. Only him and Ray Peasley are out there at the moment, but I think Peasley's on an outlap by the looks of things. I think that is Edwards actually going through the right-hand side of your shot there. On the Dottinger home and into the Tiergarten, the final couple of corners before turning right, where normally, if you've watched racing, for example the Nürburgring 24 hours or maybe the World Touring Car in whatever format that's been in, races around here, they go straight on there and that camera shot there, but turning a hard right instead towards the finish line, which Simon Edwards has just prepared himself over. He has improved but he's still over 2 seconds behind John McCutcheon. Puts 3/4 of a second between himself and Paul Crabb there, but it's only a slight improvement for our championship leader. He'll line up behind John McCutcheon on the front row. It's going to be Paul Crabb and James Child behind them, with Martin Booker rounding out the top 5. Jamie Bird is 6th ahead of Sergio Cruz, just over 5 seconds off the pace, who'll be sharing the 4th row with Colin Wynne. Paul Clark and Ray Peasley round out your top 10, with Phil Glover just outside of it. Mike Booston will be 12th, 8.5 seconds down on the pace. Martina Ward, 13th, ahead of Michael LeMay. Graham Brown with the E will be rounding out the top 15. Phil Jocelyn, 16th, ahead of Dave Dowson. Chris Bassett is 18th, ahead of David Rolleston. Christopher Rowe and Guy Robertson will be bringing up the rear, having not set a time in this qualifying session. As we said just before we were about to come on air here, Steve, big gap in between the field in terms of the times that these guys have actually done, and it's not a huge surprise considering the length of this circuit.
No, absolutely not, and there's not got to be too much sort of read into that. I mean, qualifying times are a benchmark, obviously, but it's with it being so easy to dirty a lap around here, then don't be surprised, to see some of the guys that maybe haven't got the best times in qualifying pushing the front guys as well. It is totally possible. So it's going to be interesting. Let's wait and see, and let's. Just watch how the guys fare on once the lights go green.
Absolutely, the final 5 laps of the UK&I Radical Race Series here for 2022 Season 1. Here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, we're underway again. John McCutcheon from the front row steams away into the first turn and will take the lead away from Simon Edwards. Paul Crabb holds on to 3rd ahead of Martin Booker and James Chow just behind them as they turn downhill through the right-hander and onto the Hudson Bank for the first time. Everybody tries to get themselves single-filed out nicely because it's narrow here. You can't really afford to go side by side, and you can't afford to get on these curves too much either. But it's a perfect start for John McCutcheon, who's already won 4 races in this season, looking to make it 5 here at the season finale, and he's got off to the best possible start, unlike Colin Wynne, who looks like he's been off at the very first trip through the Hudson Bank.
Yeah, certainly we've got notification that Colin Wynn's gone off track, so I'll get a replay as soon as these guys just get further on there. It looks like there's a bit of an accident further back there as well. I've just seen, so be another one there. I'm not sure if I think that's David Rollinson's gone off the track.
So it certainly looks like it is dropping down behind Dave Dawson and indeed Colin Wynne now outside of the top 20. 21 cars on the grid, let's not forget, as we get a replay of Colin Wynne getting things wrong through that left-hander there, noses in into the barriers and has to wait for the entire field to come past him before he can get going again. Royston was so close to hanging on to that one, but in the end unfortunately went into the barriers, and that one's worse arguably because damage already in this one. This track's difficult enough without that damage. With it, it's going to be almost impossible for him to get around at any kind of pace.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's such a long lap, and let's not forget 5 laps of Nordschleife. This is going to be a big one tonight, and carrying damage around here is going to be very difficult, because you get a little bit of damage, you learn to drive the car within the limits round the track, but when the lap is so long, that learning curve is a lot bigger, and you've got a lot longer to carry it, and you hemorrhage time a lot more in this sort of natured race. But it's going to be good to see McCutcheon getting a gap, and Edwards having to mind his P's and Q's as Crabb is putting him under pressure behind. So it's not all going Edwards' way this round, but he's certainly up there fighting. Just McCutcheon trying to get a gap now and maybe just give himself a little bit of breathing space. But this lap changes so fast, and that gap could disintegrate very quickly as they get into another sector. Who knows?
I was going to say Simon Edwards staying very close, but McCutcheon just through these last couple of corners has been eking it out really. As we came down through Wendell Forest, it's Paul Crabb, oh dear, from 3rd place, has gone off the road. He drops down to 7th with that mistake there at Exmouth, I believe, or corner before. Bit of a mistake for the previous 2-time champion, of course. Jamie Bird is coming under, or trying to pressure James Child just a little bit through the right-hander, and now up the hill, a very long and gradual climb now, all the way up towards the top of the hill. It's trying to go round the outside here at Kesselton, which is very difficult to do indeed, and he's going to have his work cut out. But of course, with the cars kind of dragging uphill ever so slightly, the slipstream does become a little bit more effective, and you can get yourself alongside here, but it's another fast corner coming up, left-hander. Big commitment needed here, and Jamie Bird decides rather sensibly really to stick behind, but these guys are taking a sensible choice. Martini Ward not waiting for anybody here, and will be taking 11th place away from Michael LeMay.
Oh, big crash.
Very big crash. Just coming through the left-hander, just up there, the loop curve has claimed 2 victims in one go now, I'm afraid. And even though Booston has only just made his way through the accident there, trying to make moves even off of the back of that. That was a huge accident, and I think let's see how it all panned out. Looked like Glover didn't get involved in someone else's accident or make his own. Well, he's made his own, and I think collected Ray Peasley in that one. Dearie me, that's a big accident.
Yeah, that's I would say that's a tow to pits, and indeed he has. Ray Peasley, he's actually gone back to the pits, he's been towed, so that's his race effectively over. Obviously, again, that's the other disadvantage with it being such a big lap as well. Getting towed back, it sets you back so far. So difficult start to the race for Ray.
It's not quite realistic as to what it would have been getting towed in real life. It is still shorter than that, but it is still. It'd probably be upwards of 7 minutes if you're all the way around that part of the circuit, particularly. And so yeah, he's going to be there for a long time, or indeed out of this race entirely. We do also have David Robinson back in the pit lane as well. Presumably he is also out of the race as well after the damage that he received coming down left-hander in the run up towards the fluke pads. So yeah, not nice for him. Through the final part of the lap though for the leaders, John McCutcheon's in with a 2.5 second lead over Simon Edwards. The interesting battles though a little bit further back, where the likes of Martin Bucker, James Charles, Jamie Bird are battling. Three are battling for third, and Sergio Cruz and Paul Crabb also are battling. Paul Crabb's going to be one to watch now, of course, because he got set back quite a lot earlier on in this race with that little incident at Exmouth, and so he's going to be very quick and fighting his way back through the field.
Yeah, definitely, he's got a lot to prove, hasn't he? And he'll certainly want to prove it, because he's got yet again. You know, I said at the intro, he's got the pace, and he was up there in qualifying, and just a little bit. The car was very, very loose on him, and it snapped left, snapped right. He just couldn't hold on to it, and unfortunately went off. And there's another big crash,
Onto the roof, I'm afraid, for Chris Bassett. By the looks of things, he's involved with Colin Wynne, who's had 2 problems on this first opening lap of this race here today already. It's not going well for him whatsoever, but if it can't be going much worse, Chris Bassett, who I believe was left on his roof there, or indeed the other way round. They could both be on the roof for all we know. Let's have a look. This is Guy Robertson getting his way through these guys. And dear, oh dear, another very big accident indeed that these guys have had to come across. Bassett gets on that curb a little bit through the mini carousel, twitches straight into the path of Colin Wynne, who is completely innocent in that one. Colin Wynne, by the way, has been welded to the barriers there for some reason, and Chris Bassett has gone up and over, so not a very good outcome for either of them. Goodness me. A lot of drama on this opening lap, I'm afraid, and it's like Colin Wynne and Chris Bassett both into the pit lane could well be out of this race. We could well have 4 retirements at the end of only 1 lap here at the Nordschleife, and that would, I wouldn't say that would be shocking, because it's a very difficult circuit, but that is quite a lot.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, you know, we've got Edwards in that P2 at the moment, seems to be dropping off the back of McCutcheon. Not taking anything away from McCutcheon, but do you think Edwards is just playing the long game here, and he knows what he needs to do tonight, and he's not going to be pushing too hard because he just wants to bring it home for the finish and score as many points as he can safely do so, rather than pushing the 10 tenths.
It's possible. And maybe even not pushing 100% the whole time is the way to go around here, to be quite honest. About what we've seen so far. Very tricky as we go on board with Jamie Bird, trying to get through on James Child still at this stage. This is a battle for 4th place. They're all becoming a little bit further adrift of the top 2 right now over the hill and in towards Arenberg, the right-hander. Nice opportunity for some slipstream here as well, but not a great opportunity to overtake. Adnan Forst, which is coming up in a few moments' time up over the crest of the hill. They sometimes have drone cameras for the bigger events at the Nordschleife. Well, not drone cameras, what are they called? They're kind of on cables, whatever they're called. Cable drones, we call it. Through here. It's a big logistical operation to get these cameras. Thankfully on our racing we don't have that issue. we've got them all the way around. And of course we've got these onboards as well, but Jamie Bird is going to spend quite a long time this race, I would imagine, behind James Charles. Really, we've got to wait for the main straight, or the back straight, I should say, into the Tiergarten at the very end of the lap. You really do anything. There's plenty of slipstreaming opportunities around here. Not many overtaking opportunities. It's just too narrow, really.
Yeah, for sure. It's all settling down though now, isn't it? The gaps are sort of just calming down a little bit, and I think people are settling into the groove, as it were, and they're not pushing too hard. And we can just see there's less orange now and more yellow and white than there is orange, which indicates the gap being even closer. We've only got one that's under half a second now, and that's the current battle that we're watching. And even those guys have got enough space to concentrate on driving their own lines at the moment and just trying not to make that mistake.
Absolutely, we do have two confirmed retirements already from this race. Ray Peasley and David Rolleston are confirmed as out of this race. Chris Bassett's still getting his car repaired. Phil Glover has been in the pit lane, by the way, hence why he's 2 minutes off the next driver in the order. And also Colin Wynne as well. Hasn't even completed one lap yet because he had to tow back to the pit lane. So it's not looking good for a lot of these guys. This is what I mean about the slipstreaming being very effective, but you're not really able to go anywhere with it once you have got there. Paul Crabb is here as well now after getting through on Sergio Cruz a little bit earlier on. He's now on the back of these guys, and it'll be interesting to see how he makes his way through this field, because we've seen some big defensive performances from particularly Martin Booker and James Child, I can remember, so far in these races. Paul Crabb, though, is undoubtedly quicker than these guys, as shown by qualifying and the opening couple of laps in this race, despite the mistake that he made earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. He's closed up this gap fairly quickly. He was, about a second or so back a few corners ago, and he just seems to have honed in. But again, these guys are starting now to attack each other and defend ahead of him. Jamie Bird on James Child, Martin Booker up in front. So I think they are effectively almost slowing each other down a little bit as well. And Paul Crabb potentially has got the lap time and the speed in hand to stay with them and keep pressuring them, as we can see. Fantastic onboard. I think Nordschleife itself, with the undulation, the tight turns, the big curves, as we mentioned earlier, I think it's a great circuit for the onboard cameras.
It certainly is. Very dramatic as well, especially at night. You really can't see anything around here at night, hence the trees, or because of the trees, I should say, blocking all the ambient light out basically. That makes it very, very difficult indeed.
Just saw Paul Crabb take a big chunk of curve, then and he just threw him to the right, but managed to hold it and keep it on line. But that's what I mean. It's so easy just to make that fraction. What seems like a fraction off line can turn into a big chunk of time lost and even an accident.
Yeah, as you said earlier on, these cars are so light. First of all, the curbs, you don't want to touch them. The curbs are very deadly themselves, and you don't really want to touch them in any car, to be quite honest. But thirdly, we look at the off-board shot a little bit earlier on. These cars are so low to the ground that you can't get away with these curbs almost at all. Even the ones that you could normally touch, that you can't really get away with. The more gradual incline the curves may be, as we just saw on the entry to Galgenkopf at the top of the hill. A little bit more possible for Paul Crabb there, but not really as we get on out to the Dottingham. It's a great run from Paul Crabb. Jamie Bird did mess up the final corner there just a little bit, and that is going to leave him vulnerable, but he has got the slipstream of James Child to maybe tow him along a little bit, especially now that Crabb has pulled out of the slipstream. Is that going to matter at all? Well, doesn't really look like it. Crabb looks like he might have the legs anyway, although Bird is fighting back on the inside line, but now he will struggle with his nose behind going into the Tiergarten. He's no longer able to put up any resistance, and Paul Crabb is up into 5th place.
Yeah, great move and great timing there. It'd be all too easy to pop your nose out a little bit too early, and the revs do die back because it's amazing how hard it is on them, because it is uphill, especially the sort of second half of that straight, and it's a long climb, and it does sap the horsepower out of any car, but especially when you're the one popping out of the slipstream, you can see that advantage start to disappear as you're breaking through the air for yourself, and you're out of the slipstream. But Paul Crabb got the job done there, and he's immediately onto the back of Child now, and he's looking to try and push past Child.
Oh, Mark Boonson, I think he's been off the road somewhere. He was having a battle with Martina Ward and Michael LeMays into the pit lane as well, but for some reason. So we're not the first driver we've seen in the pit lane so far. Look at this though, Paul Crabb straight through on James Child. That was a bit of an unexpected one, coming up the hill towards Flugplatz there, but he's got it done, a bit unorthodox, and he will be susceptible to a bit of a run coming his way in a couple of moments' time on the run down towards Ironburg, but that's not going to happen. Jamie Bird with a real head of steam here could try and get himself through as well, because Child kind of lifted off there, didn't really want any part of that, and decided to lift off and just wait a little bit longer. Bird though also unable to get through, so Crab continuing to make progress even in places rather that we weren't quite expecting.
Yeah, definitely. Now it's Child is the filling in the sandwich between Crab and Bird, and it'd be interesting to see if this battle resumes between Bird and Child, and see how much closer Bird can get, see if he can start applying some pressure on the back of Child. He does indeed there. I don't know if he was getting on the back or just missed his braking point there. It's a bit of evasive action to avoid Simon Edwards going through again.
Well, Simon Edwards dropping back. He's been off the road and down into 6th place, so Martin Booker's all of a sudden up to 2nd. Crab restores his 3rd place, but how did this happen? Too much curb, and that's a fairly... oh dearie me! The championship leader has a fairly hefty hit on the wall at the championship finale. Luckily for him, it's basically signed and sealed for him at this stage, but Edwards is going to be in the pit lane surely at the end of this lap. Look how far he's dropped back already in this one, down to 7th and losing time hand over fist.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I mean. You know, I mean, Paul Crabb up to P3 again now, so he's back to where he started pretty much, and it's Booker up in 2nd, and Richardson just stealing the march now on everybody else, nearly 10 seconds up the road from Booker. So it's he's certainly he's getting those lap times in and being consistent at the moment with the sectors, and on lap 3 of 5, and he's 10 seconds up the road. Be interesting to see if anything happens when it comes to pit stops.
Absolutely, or even if they'll need any at this stage, because you'd think it'd be either lap 2 or 3, I suppose, if indeed they did. I did at the start of the season presume that this race would be the longer one, but since this is only going to be just under 35 minutes, I feel like the one at Suzuka was a little bit longer than that one, and we haven't had information to tell us otherwise. So there we are. Paul Crabb still very close though on the run up the hill towards this left-hander, where we've seen incident and accident in the past in this race. Maybe that is right. Well, obviously he might not even know that happened, but it's probably sensible not to go for a move through that fast left-hander there, as we have seen in the past, because you can get it wrong on your own.
Yeah, for sure, and there is a little bit of battling going on further back, as we can just see in the picture-in-picture. That is Brown and Ward having a bit of a battle there. Actually Brown's just gone off the track, so he did well to hold that, and he's just lost some time there, but he managed to come back on, and he's going to put some pressure back on Ward as soon as he can get brought back up to him.
Absolutely. Oh, around goes... who was that?
That's Martina Ward, I believe.
It was Ward. Oh, dearie me. Running inside the top 10 at the moment. Going around the corner before the carousel there. And that is going to be a drop outside the top 10, I'm afraid, is the re-entry. Thankfully able to get things going again before that car became too much of a problem in terms of being in the road. But yeah, still very disappointing. Now 10 seconds off the possible top 10. However, with Simon Edwards dropping back so quickly and or pitting, then she does have a chance to get back inside the top 10, and we'll see where Simon Edwards does get to after all of the trials and tribulations today. And speaking of which, it does look like we've seen Martin Booker have some there. It's Paul Clark though with a replay. Here's how he got through, or that is how he got through on Simon Edwards a few moments ago. But yeah, Martin Booker losing out on 3 places there. One simple mistake coming out of Ice Curve. It was just after Brunchen, or YouTube corners, people call it these days. Out of there, catching the slide very well, but a very costly mistake it turned out to be.
Yeah, for sure, it certainly was, and it's costing the places, and Paul Crabb back up to a P2. who would have thought that after his early incident? But it just goes to show you, it appears to keep pushing, keep trying, and certainly keep circulating. He's now in a very respectable P2, 10 seconds away from the leader, but I think Paul Crabbe will be pretty happy with that result. I think he'll take that one.
Well, if you can hold on to it, of course. We've seen him make one mistake already, although that was with other cars around where it is a little bit different. Mike Booson, a little bit of a damaged car, it's safe to say. Can't really remember where he picked that up, to be quite honest. There's been quite a few cars off the road at various points today. Sergio Cruz getting through on Jamie Bird. It looks like Bird has got some quite significant damage himself here, because Martin Booker was able to get through at quite an unorthodox place, and Cruz has been able to get right onto the back of him and pass immediately. Here's Graham Brown on Simon Edwards. Yeah, Simon Edwards there. Mike Booson really struggling for straight line speed as well. If you've got damage here, it looks absolutely fatal for your race by the looks of some of these images here. Jamie Bird as well just dropped down and looks like made a mistake somewhere actually to lose 3 seconds to Cruz, who just got through on him. But these damaged cars going very slowly up the hill there and into the pit lane for Simon Edwards, unsurprisingly really, given how slowly he went around that lap.
Yeah, I think Jamie Bird got involved in somebody else's incident. If you just watch this replay now.
It's the very final corner of the circuit, and around goes Bird. That was Paul Crabbe getting things wrong just in front of him. Lots of things, and he's dropped down to 6th place. Oh dear, some people just can't really catch a break, can they? As we see Simon Edwards already immediately out of the pit lane, looking to get back into the top 10. Dave Dowson into the pits, he drops out the top 15. And this battle remains one of the few, especially up towards the front of the field. Here's Edwards trying to get through a Warden. Remains to be seen how far can he get through in 2 laps. It's going to be a big challenge for him here. And a good challenge, I suppose, given that this championship is basically sealed already.
Yeah, to be fair, he's going to enjoy this. I think he's not going to be happy with his performance. We know he's a bit of a perfectionist. He likes to, obviously bring home the trophies when he can. But this evening's not gone his way, so he's going to just looks like he's going to probably keep battling his way and see how far up he can get. There's some pretty big gaps ahead of him, but he's going to have to go some. But as we've already seen, 4 laps down, there's been some mistakes that have opened up opportunities for drivers to climb back up the order, Paul Crabbe being one of them.
Absolutely. About 1 2/3 laps to remaining in this race. John McCutcheon leading by a mile at this stage, over 11 seconds. Simon Edwards, by the way, hasn't finished outside the top 2 in the races that he's participated in. Of course, 8 appearances so far, 4 wins and 4 second places. That run looks like it's going to be broken here today, for what it's worth. In terms of the battle for second in the championship, it looks like Martin Booker might well take it all here. He's only 11 points behind Graham Brown, who's in second at the moment, and he's well inside the top 20. Here's Martin Booker, so there will be a second place in the championship for him, which will be worth something, of course. And it is important, I guess, for everybody to have a decent race here, because of course that will be your last memory of this season, and heading into next one, your last memory of the previous season will be quite one that will stick into the forefront of your mind, really. So I think it's important for everybody to have a decent race at the very least.
Yeah, I think Martina Ward's been in the wars again. I'm just checking back on the replays now, which is showing that she's had an off-track or some sort of incident, so I'll see if we can get you a replay of that one.
So has another driver, Christopher Rowe, as we were trying to find the replay of that one. Michael LeMay is going to place because of Christopher Rowe, and here he is coming through, or towards, I should say, Bergwerk, I believe. And a bit of a spin. Excuse me, that's not Bergwerk at all. Callandhard, I should say. Here's Martina Ward. Could be at exactly the same corner here. Maybe she had her issues a little bit earlier on. Oh no, it was through Callandhard. There we go. Through the right-hander, spinning to the outside line, and hopefully getting back going again. But one of the very few places where you can spin, or one of the few occasions where someone has spun at the Nordschleife and not come into contact with the barriers. Fortunate on this occasion, as Dave Dowson, I think, will be calling it a day from there. Yeah, very difficult to spin and not touch any barriers around here, but very lucky for those who manage it.
Yeah, for sure. Paul Crabbe, he's got a bit of breathing room now from Child in 3rd place, and I think Child will do well to just try and stay in touch with Crab if he can and just play a watching brief. But it certainly looks like Crab's he's got some lap times again. He's quite aggressive with the curbs there. It always makes me a little bit nervous when I see them taking as much curb as Paul does there, because you can actually see it unsettle the car and shove the car over on the track. Certainly making it hard work for him to go around in there, using it all the curb again. A little bit of the almost the AstroTurf on the outside of that corner there, and yeah, absolutely maximising the track he can use. But we can see Child close right back in on him through that sector there, and just a little bit better use of the curbs from Child, allowing him to carry a bit more speed and get within 2/10 of the back of Crab now for what was an 8/10 gap. So that's impressive. That's over the space of 3 or 4 corners.
Very, very close all of a sudden. Child applying the pressure, the plunge downhill now towards the final, through the Flansgarten there, and down the hill towards Schwabenschwanz now. Paul Crab under a big amount of pressure. And Child just applying that right now, and really, well, not working just yet, but if he persists here, they may well do. And if indeed he stays close enough, through these last final few corners, the mini carousel and then the Gabenkopf corner right at the top of the hill here, then there is an opportunity for him to be able to get through. But over those final few crucial corners, Paul Crab has strung some very, very quick moments together, and he might well just have got out of the woods here, metaphorically and literally at the moment, out on the straight. Although that gap's creeping down half a second. Now 4.5 temps. Soon it will be 4 temps. Will this straight go on for long enough for Child to get this move done? Of course, the slipstream becoming more effective as he gets closer, but it doesn't look like he's quite going to have enough into the Tiergarten. Maybe just filling things out for a final lap overtake here into the final few corners of this season for second place in this race. Very possible, because if he's 2 temps quicker, then he'd be right alongside at this point here.
Yeah, absolutely. You could just hear the engine on that uphill bit, as we were saying a couple of laps ago, and really just the slipstream being a lot more effective there for Child, because he was close enough. Like I say, he was within 3/10. You could see it was pulling him along faster, and as Paul Crab's car was having to do all the hard work, Child's just could just maximise that slipstream and gain those extra 10th or 2, and he did get close, but he could have just been done to have been maybe 1 or 2 tenths closer at the start of the straight, and then that could have turned into an overtake opportunity. But like you say, if Child's maybe got that in mind, just to watch Crab now stay in the toes, stay as close as he can without making any mistakes, and just set that one up for this lap for the end of the championship.
Well, credit to Paul Crab here though, because there's not a lot you can do to defend around here. Obviously we mentioned that very long straight, and when you're close enough in the slipstream, there's really not a lot you can do in Paul Crab's situation here. The only thing you can do is string those final few corners together very, very well, and put enough of a margin between you and your rival to make that not make that reality still remain fictional, I guess. And Paul Crab did a very, very good job of that through especially those final 3 corners. Think about Schwabenschwanz, the mini carousel and Gabenkopf, strung them together almost perfectly, and those 3 corners alone basically protected him from a potential move from James Child there. So there's very limited things that Crab can do in this situation, but he did all of them in the last one. Just needs to do it one more time to hold on to second.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just it's a fantastic display from John McCutchinson up in front in that 69 car. He's one of the few that really hasn't had any incidents, or none that we've seen this evening, and the time gap back to Crab, when I can get my words out, would indicate that he's had a pretty consistent and steady run really. And I think it'll be in his mind now not to lift off, because sometimes that can cause you to make mistakes, but he just maybe won't be pushing quite as hard as he would do if somebody was behind him. Now he'll just be concentrating on bringing the car around as quick as possible, but as safe as possible as well. And he's certainly he's good halfway around the lap now, so he's well underway.
Absolutely, almost no competition for him today, and not really any competition for him in any of his wins so far, apart from the one at Interlagos, which of course sticks out in the mind. So being one of those closer ones, the gap between himself and Simon Edwards towards the end was very, very close. Speaking of Simon Edwards, here he is getting through on, is that Mike Booson?
It is indeed, yeah.
Yeah, Mike Booson. I've recognised the slightly damaged car there, unfortunately, for Booson, rather than anything else. It's a difficult day for him, and difficult day for Simon Edwards, but he'll be able to take some comfort in of course, being the champion. And maybe that was the cause of the mistake, to be honest. The lack of pressure and the kind of ability to take it easy, for some, leads to mistakes. He may well have done there, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, again, I mean, this is one of my favourite circuits. I once did do a 12-hour solo endurance race for charity round here in GT3 machinery, and it was a fantastic experience. The sort of weeks and months before it, building up to it with the practice and really getting to know the sectors to the point that, after you've done sort of, I think 12 hours, we did 110 laps or something like that. So it was one of those tracks. You got to know the circuits, the corners. You got to know the lines. You got to know where you could push that little bit harder. You got to know where you could take a bite out of your sandwich and a drink from your can, and what have you. And it was great. It was fantastic. It's a fantastic track. I think it really does instill some knowledge into you, some learning technique. If you can learn how to drive the Nordschleife and break it down into sectors, you can learn any circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the longest circuit and the most difficult to learn out of any circuit in the world, really. Someone say it's the best circuit in the world, but I don't quite agree with that. I won't quite go that far, but it is certainly up there with the motorsport's greatest, of course.
One of the most challenging, I would be fair to say, I think.
Oh yeah, the most. I would go with the most challenging, certainly, but it doesn't make it the best.
No, absolutely not. I agree with you, mate. It's not the best race circuit because by definition of racing, you want some overtaking, you want some track action, and we see lots and lots of battles around here with the VLN and other categories that race around here, and it is difficult to get overtakes no matter what level of racing driver you are. It takes a certain amount of skill and a hell of a lot of bravery, and I think this evening we've had a good show from this man that's on the camera on how to I won't say hot lap, but just put those laps in consistently, and that's what he's done. He absorbed any pressure if there was any at the beginning of the race, and he's managed to do what he needs to do. We saw him eke out a little bit of a gap right from the start, albeit we're talking 6, 7 tenths, but it was enough that he could concentrate and focus on what he needed to do and not worry about anyone else. But he's done what he needs to do now. I'm just watching on my other screen actually, and Childs just had a little bit of an off track there, so I think Crab's very safe in that second place as Charles dropped to 1.7, 1.8 seconds back now. So I think it's the podium is pretty much set as it is now.
It certainly should be. James Childs was struggling on this final lap either way to get near Paul Crab here. Looks like he's going to come home second, but they are all in the wake of this man here. John McCutchinson was in the UK&I Radical Race Series 9 months ago, clinching a championship, of course. Here he is today, clinching his 5th win of the season in only 5 appearances. It has been, by all accounts, a pretty good season for McCutchinson, really. Despite the lack of races, he has won a lot and will do again here at the Nürburgring. The 5th win of the season for him, and arguably his most dominant to date. Over 15 seconds ahead of 2-time champion Paul Crab. James Childs is going to come home 3rd, with Martin Booker not too far away either, clinching 2nd in the championship. But a little bit further down, in 9th place in this race, coming down the Nottingham Hill at the moment, is Simon Edwards. Champion only 3 months ago at the end of 2021, clinching his first UK&I Radical Race Series championship. He's going to do it again here today at the Nürburgring. 37 points of an advantage coming into today. With the absence of his championship rival, he really didn't need to do very much at all. Even a 9th place would have been good enough had Graham Brown won the race here today. Simon Edwards always knew that he had one hand on the trophy, but today finally he can get 2 as he comes over the line to become a 2-time UK&I Radical Race Series champion here in 2022. What a fantastic achievement for him. Dominance all season. This is the first time in his 9 appearances that he's finished outside of the top 2, kind of marking to his remarkable consistency in the season, and very, very deserving of his championship here in 2022. Only 9th place today for Simon Edwards, but he is champion by a very, very long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, hats off to everybody throughout this championship. It's been a fantastic one to watch. There's been some very good battling. There's been a few incidents here and there. We've seen some drivers having some really good race results, and we've had, some good fight backs. Paul Crabb, I think he'll agree with us. He probably hasn't had the most consistent season, not the best season. He's had some good qualifying times, but just not being able to convert those into good finishing results. But he's been there. He's provided some track action. He's provided some great battles for us, and I think this Radical Championship is absolutely awesome. And I think if anyone's thinking about getting involved for the next season when it starts, they should very much do so and jump in there. And I'm sure they won't regret it. They'll have a lot of fun.
Absolutely, single make racing always very, very exciting, of course, and this car no different either. We saw a remarkable amount of off-track moments for drivers at the end of lap 1 end up in the pit lane. After all of this, in the end, David Rollison, Chris Bassett and Ray Peasley never made it out of the pit lane after their lap 1 escapade. Dave Dowson joined them as he was just getting onto lap 4 in this race, but 17 cars to the finish of this one is not a bad achievement, because it is a very, very difficult circuit indeed to get right. And thankfully, most of these guys have been able to make it, including Phil Glover, who was in the pit lane at one time. You can see his rear end slightly out of shape. That Radical. It's not in great shape. I'll be honest there, but he's got to the end here, and that is an achievement in itself here at a circuit like this one. And so before we get to any interviews, let's just have one final run through of this result at the end of 25 laps of racing at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. John McCutcheon victorious here once again ahead of Paul Crabb. Comfortable victory. James Child was hounding Paul Crabb to make it not so comfortable for second. Martin Buckle was there as well. Sergio Cruz just over 30 seconds back with Jamie Bird in sixth. Then it was Paul Clark, Graham Brown and Simon Edwards all finishing just under a minute behind John McCutcheon. Mike Booson 1 minute 3 down, and rounding out to your top 10. Phil Jocelyn and Guy Robertson were next ahead of Martina Ward, who had a couple of spins today unfortunately. Michael LeMay was 14th ahead of Christopher Rowe. Colin Wynne 16th and Phil Glover 17th to round out those who ended up finishing the race here today. Dave Dowson, Chris Bassett, Ray Peasley and David Rolleston didn't make it to the end, unfortunately. So then, before we sign off here today, let's talk to our podium drivers and hopefully the champion as well. Here today, after that race here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, we now bring in John McCutcheon, who joins us fresh off that race victory there. John, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here once again. 15 seconds was the margin at the end. It looked comfortable from where we were, but at a circuit like this, can it ever be comfortable? And was it comfortable for you in the driver's seat?
No, it was bloody painful. You know what this track's like. It's non-stop, so it's a heavy track to go fast round all the time. When Simon crashed out, it was kind of a bit easier for me. He was holding under a bit of pressure. I think that's the first time I've ever seen Simon crash. So, bad luck.
It's certainly the first time I've seen him crash this season, there's no question about that. How would you assess this season overall? It's been 12 rounds, you've been to 5 of them, but you've won them all. So in my mind, that's a bit of a topsy-turvy thing to work out, because in one way you've not been here very much and so on. That's a little bit disappointing for us, of course, especially. But you've won all the times you've been here. So would you mark it down as a success?
Absolutely, 5 races and 5 wins. That's good. Hopefully, I'll make more races next season, enough to get 8 races in. Hopefully.
Absolutely. We hope to see at least 8 races from you next season, and we look forward to seeing you there at the next season. But for now, thanks very much for coming to talk to us in the commentary box, and congratulations on P1 today.
Thanks. I'd just like to congratulate Simon on the championship. He drove fantastic all season, so well done to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much to John McCutcheon for joining us here from the race victory here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Next, we're going to bring in Paul Crabb here with James Child, just hunting him down all the way to the end there, but hanging on for second place. Paul, welcome along to the booth. Good to have you here. Just go back to the start of the race. Early on, of course, you unfortunately had that little issue around the back of the lap very early on in the race. Just took us through kind of what happened there, and then of course that there was a big fight back for you to be had after that as well.
Yeah, that Edwards bloke, he went and parked it in the compression. He just got it sideways a bit, and I ever so nearly ran into the back of him. But we both kept it together, and I had to let the guys behind go past before I could rejoin. So it made for a interesting race after that. But fortunately, no damage. So, but I kind of led a charmed life, really. I had a multiple nearly offs, which I managed to recover from. So.
You mentioned it was a very interesting fight back. How was it trying to overtake around here? Because to my mind, there's only really one place you can get through, and that's the back straight. Were you able to, or did you feel like it was like okay to overtake at other places, or really was it a waiting game quite a lot of the time?
It was a waiting game. I mean, I could have launched it up the inside a couple of times, but the risk would just be so high because people aren't expecting to be an overtake, and when you've got a little line of cars, the sort of the multiple draft effect, it's difficult to get a run on someone. And the sort of the middle straight, I've tried overtaking people there, and the chances of getting a net code as you're going around the kink is so high that it's not worth it.
One final thing as well before we let you go is, look, to my very rough mental maths, looks like you might be around 6th place in the championship after this season. How do you feel about that, and how do you think the season's gone as an overall?
I'm really happy with the season. I mean, I've had some really good races. One I think, and I had some really good races. I missed a few races and did stupid things in others. So I can't complain. I probably should be a bit higher up, but more than happy with 6th.
Absolutely, and your drive today was very good as well. So congratulations on 2nd place, of course, and thanks very much for coming to join us.
Thank you, gents. Been a really good season.
Thanks very much, Paul Crabb there joining us from 2nd position in the race here at the Nürburgring today. Doesn't look like James Child will be joining us today, unfortunately. So instead, we will bring in our now confirmed champion, of course. Simon Edwards is here once again. A bit of a difficult race for you today, Simon. I think it's fair to say. However, you have been crowned champion at the end of it, so it must be a good feeling, nevertheless.
It is, but I didn't want to end it like that. Yeah, I didn't have John's pace anyway, but I thought if I just stick at a good lap time, see if he makes a mistake. He didn't. I did twice. So it was a bit of a nightmare race. I don't normally crash in races, but yeah, I got the championship. I didn't realise because I've had 3 weeks off. Once for the 12-hour, and then I was on holiday for a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's I didn't expect to win the championship while missing 3 races.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a chaotic season for those behind you. You've been pretty much the only one to be consistently up there in the top 2. Just talk us through though what happened today. You said you don't crash very much, and there's never been truer words spoken really. But this was one of those rare occasions, admittedly, where you did come unstuck this time around. Just talk us through really what happened, and then what it was like after that, trying to come through the field for all the positions that you could gain, of course.
Well, the first one was on the first lap. I nearly killed Paul Crabb. You probably saw. I lost the back end. I saved it, but then Paul, avoiding me, spun, so I feel a bit bad about that. But yeah, I got on. I was feeling fairly comfortable, and I normally cut over the curb. I don't know what that curb's called, that corner's called, but I normally cut over that, and I must have just done it in a different way, and I just ended up in the air, and then I just didn't have enough room to save the car, and just saw the barrier coming. I shouldn't have held on though, because I've got a direct drive wheel, and it gave me quite a big clout back as I hit the wheel. Then I thought I'd got away with it when I got back on, because I turned left and that was fine. So I thought I was going to get back to the pits easy just with aero damage, and then I tried to turn right, and it didn't do it. So I knew I was in big trouble then. So, but I just did it a challenge to myself to get to the end of the lap and pit. So I was just playing my own little game then. And
yeah, absolutely. It was good to see you coming back through the field once more. One final thing as well, because the new season will be starting again soon, of course. Will you be returning? And is the aim, I presume, to try and win again? I suppose.
yes, definitely. I know there's been talk about changing maybe some of the races that aren't so popular, like this one, for different choices rather than follow the official all the way through. I don't know if that's going to be true or not, but I do enjoy driving the Radicals, so and I enjoy this league, so yeah, I'll definitely be alright.
We certainly look forward to that. But for now, let's congratulate you, of course, on the championship. It clinched tonight, and we'll let you go enjoy that now. Thanks very much for coming to join us.
Thank you, and thank you for the excellent broadcast this season.
Yeah, no problem at all. Simon Edwards there joining us there after winning the championship here today. Let's bring in a couple more drivers as well. It's the last race of the season, so we might as well. Martina Ward now joining us here from 13th position here today. A couple of trials and tribulations today, Martina, but you've got to the end in the end. How was your race overall, considering everything after 5 laps today?
Hey guys, I am fairly happy with how the race went. It was a bit of an experiment with running a low downforce setup for the first time this season, and I wasn't quite prepared for race distance on that setup. That's why in the last 3 laps I made a few mistakes and made it more difficult for myself. But yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with how the race went. Even got to have some close racing with Mike and with Phil, which hasn't happened a lot this season. So yeah, pretty chuffed with that.
It was good to see, and one final thing as well on the season overall. I suppose we've seen you out here every week, week in, week out, and trying to do well. Of course, how has the season been overall? How would you assess it?
I think it's been maybe tougher competition than previous seasons. So this is my 3rd season in the league, and I'm pretty religious about attendance. But yeah, the competition is definitely getting stiffer. All the guys have been improving massively. I mean, we can see Martin is now Martin Booker 2nd overall in the championship, and we've got James Child. We've got Paul Clark, Paul LeMay. Yeah, everyone just seems to have stepped up massively. So I need to up my game for next season.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to seeing you next season, certainly, when we start up again, of course. But for now, congratulations on getting to the end of another race, another season, of course, as well. And we look forward to seeing you in a few weeks for the new season. But for now, Martina, thanks very much for coming to join us.
You most certainly will see me. Thanks very much, guys, and appreciate all the hard work you've been doing.
Thank you very much. Martina Ward there from 13th position here today, and of course completion of a 3rd season, as she said there, here in the Radical Race Series. Final interview for today, and indeed the season, I suppose. Phil Glover now joins us here in the commentary box. 17th position for you today, Phil. Difficult day, but difficult for everybody, I suppose. How was your race overall? How was your day out at the Nürburgring Nordschleife?
I always enjoy the Nordschleife, but yeah, I guess it wasn't a great day for me, and I had a bit of an accident. I think I either caught a bit of grass or got a little bit wide, and it wouldn't have been so bad if it was just me, but I think Ray probably caught the tail end of that. So apologies to Ray if he's watching this later on. I don't know. I mean, I kind of enjoyed it, but I wasn't very competitive.
And how was your season overall? We've seen you one of the regulars, of course, here week in, week out. But how was it? How have you found it?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'll say a big thanks to all the guys and girls that get involved in organising this. It's a fantastic group of people, and made all the better for you guys. the commentary. So yeah, it's a great thing to do on a Thursday night. To be honest, I really look forward to it. It's not been a great year for me this year. I've had better years, but yeah, it's about the fun of competing, really.
Certainly is, and we've had the enjoyment of seeing you out here every week, and hopefully we'll do for the next season as well. But for now, Phil, thanks very much for coming to join us, and yeah, we'll see you next season. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Take care.
Thank you very much to Phil Glover for joining us there after the race today. Well, that is going to be it from us here from the interview side of things and from the broadcast side of things here for season 1 of 2022. Final word from you here, Steve. It's been a very good season, and we're looking forward to the next one kicking off very soon.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this season. My first season involved with broadcasting the Radicals, and it's been a learning curve. But I think as with any championship, as you get to know the drivers and you watch them week in, week out, you know who to follow. You know who's going to make the big moves, and you know there's lots of them on this grid. It's been an absolute pleasure to work alongside you, Ewan, and I hope to be back next season as soon as it kicks off, because I have very, very much enjoyed it. So thank you very much to everyone within the league for putting on a good show.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks very much for everybody who has been tuned in throughout this season here over the last 12 rounds. Started all the way back earlier on this year at the Hungaroring. We've come all the way to the Nürburgring Nordschleife for our championship finale, and Simon Edwards is your champion here once again. He's now a 2-time champion and will aim to defend that crown once again in a few weeks' time when we kick off the second season of 2022. If you've been watching the UK&I Radical Race Series here in 2022, it's been great to have you all along, and until the new season kicks off, it's goodbye for now.